Let's continue with our tar modeling of the C++ type system. Today we're going to add union. Hello, welcome. My name is Kjell-Olov, and let's recapitulate where we left off the last time. So far we have examined these two types of C++ definitions, or actually a definition and a declaration. So we have an integer x with a value 4, and we have a struct type A, which is an empty struct. And we proposed that in the tar model, this translates into 3 layers, where the x is a variable on the variable layer having the value 4. The int is actually on the type level, and it's tied to some mysterious object here. And struct is on the kind layer, tied to some imaginary object here. And we also showed that, in fact, each layer here creates stuff on the layer below. So this int object here we viewed as int is an operator that takes the name x and the value 4 and creates that one. In the same way, struct is an operator that takes the name a and arguments, and in this case creates this thing here. So that's a nice pattern. Today we're going to add union. And just very briefly, we'll just repeat this modeling in tar, and says that union is in fact an operator with this name. It exists on the kind layer, it's tied to something here, and that something creates this U type that is both the type U, the union, and the type A, the struct, is empty. So we know the contents of these two. So far so good. Seems nice, and I actually think I know pretty surely that this is actually straight off the type theory that you can read about, where you have the variables here, you have the types, and you have the kinds, and they have this interesting relation. So what more can we say about this now? Well, already we can see that these layers has some interesting characteristics from which we can learn stuff. So not only is it that each layer creates stuff on the layer below, it's also so that stuff on each layer refers to stuff above. So we keep track of that the variable x is of type int. So we have a relation like that. And also the type A is of struct. So that one relates like that. The union type U also keeps track of that. So when the compiler compiles this C++ code, it actually keeps track of all these relations. I wonder how far I should go in this episode and what I should take in the next episode. Well, I can just finalize this episode with this kind of reflection, that this layer here, each layer here, can be expressed in another way. We can call this the in real life layer, because here is actually all the code and variables and data that we actually will have in our program, while the type is actually, all this layer is about category. So if you call it type or category, but it's a way of saying that the stuff here is actually organized into categories. So we have integers, and we have all this other kind of stuff, and we have A's or any other type we can create from structs, and we have unions, and of course already you can imagine that we're going to fill in here with even more ways of creating types or categories here. And as a programmer, that's what we most of the time what we do is we define types and create data of that type and make up our program that way. If you look carefully, we can actually say something about the kind layer here. The kind is kind of an anonymous name. Is that how you say it in English? Anonymous name, because these are actually compositions. So what we do here is we take stuff down here and compose it. So if you look carefully, the struct is actually a way of composing stuff from this layer here and say, okay, a struct is, well, this type and this type and this type, and we give each thing a name, a member name. And a union is another way of composing stuff where the stuff in here is actually one of, you can have a union of an int and a double and a bool, for example. Then you know that you can change type of this at any given moment. The union can have each and any of the types we have declared there. So we're going to expand on this pattern and continue to call it tar and see what more meat on the bone we can build up here and what interesting things we can do with this. So stay tuned and join me in the next episode. And for now, thank you for watching and see you next time.
If you like my videos,
feel free to do nothing. Just grab a cup of coffee
and enjoy.